Ethan Cross stands in the middle of the ballroom, and every single person here thinks he's about to get thrown out. His mother-in-law's glass shatters on the marble. She doesn't even flinch. "Get out," Diane Lynn says. "You don't belong at this table, Ethan. You never did." 300 guests go quiet. All of them are watching a poor man about to be humiliated in front of the entire city.
None of them know Ethan owns the hotel they're standing in right now. 6 months ago, this marriage wasn't supposed to mean anything. The Lynn family needed a groom fast before a scandal broke, and they picked Ethan because he looked like nobody. A driver, a warehouse worker, a man with a 10-year-old car and no last name worth Googling. What they don't know is that Ethan controls 11 companies through blind trusts nobody has ever traced back to him. He chose this marriage on purpose, and tonight he's done hiding it. But to understand how we got here, we have to go back to day one. Ethan grew up around money, just not his own. His grandfather, Walter Cross, built a shipping and logistics empire from a single truck in 1970. By the time Ethan turned 25, Walter had quietly folded him into 11 companies through blind trusts on one condition. Nobody outside the family gets to know who Ethan really is until Ethan decides he's ready. Walter's exact words were, "Money makes people show you who they really are. Don't waste that." Ethan never wasted it. He watched girlfriends change the second they found out. He watched business partners get suddenly, suspiciously kind. So when a marriage broker reached out about a quiet arrangement, a family needing a groom fast, no questions asked, Ethan saw an opportunity nobody else would ever get. A chance to marry someone who had absolutely no reason to be kind to him, and see if she would be anyway. Sophia Lynn was that someone, and she had no idea what she just walked into. Walter Cross doesn't appear much in this story. He passed 2 years before any of this began, but his voice still runs through every decision Ethan makes. Ethan keeps one voicemail saved on his phone, the last one Walter ever left him, and plays it more often than he'd admit to anyone. "Ethan, it's your grandfather," the message starts, gruff, unhurried. "Someday you'll meet someone who has no idea what you're worth. Pay attention to how they treat you before they know. That's the only data that ever matters. Everything else is noise." Ethan listens to it the night before his wedding to Sophia, alone in the guest cottage, staring at a ceiling that leaks in one corner. He doesn't know yet that she'll bring him a space heater in the rain within the week. He just knows he's about to find out exactly what kind of person she is. And for the first time since Walter died, that feels like something worth doing. The wedding itself lasts 11 minutes. No music, no guests beyond the immediate family, a courthouse-adjacent registry office Diane chose specifically because it wouldn't attract cameras. Sophia wears a plain cream dress bought off the rack 2 days earlier. Ethan wears the only suit he owns. Diane spends the entire ceremony checking her phone. Richard signs the paperwork like he's approving a shipping invoice. Vivian doesn't bother showing up at all. She has a spa appointment she can't reschedule. Only Sophia treats it like it means something. She looks at Ethan during the vows, actual eye contact, actually listening to the words instead of reciting them. And something in Ethan's chest shifts, unexpected, unwelcome, because this was supposed to be an experiment, not a beginning. Afterward, in the car, Sophia breaks the silence first. "For what it's worth, I know this isn't real to my family. I'd still like it to not be miserable, if that's all right with you." "It's all right with me," Ethan says, and means it more than he expects to. Sophia Lynn walks into the guest cottage behind her family's estate, soaked from the rain, carrying a space heater she bought with her own money.
This is where her mother put Ethan, a room smaller than a college dorm. "You'll freeze in here," Sophia says. "I'm sorry about my family. They're a lot." Ethan says nothing. He could end this right now with 6 words. He doesn't. Because the second he tells her the truth, this stops being real. And right now, for the first time in his life, someone is being kind to him for no reason at all. Sophia doesn't know it yet, but this small moment, a space heater in the rain, is the reason Ethan chooses her over everyone else in that house. 2 weeks pass. Ethan learns the rhythm of the Lynn household fast
because it never changes. Breakfast, they ignore him. Lunch, they mock his job. Dinner, Diane reminds every guest at the table that Sophia's husband is a charity case, a favor her father agreed to for tax reasons nobody actually explains.
Vivian, Sophia's younger sister, is worse than her mother. Vivian doesn't just insult people, she performs it, like she's collecting an audience. Sophia, Vivian says one night, swirling wine she didn't pay for, "Does it embarrass you, bringing him to things? I saw him carrying groceries yesterday like like a person who works," Sophia cuts in. "Unlike you." The table goes silent. Ethan keeps eating.
Under the table, Sophia's hand finds his for half a second, just to check he's okay. He's not offended. He's paying attention. Sophia has exactly one person in her corner who isn't part of this family, her best friend since college, Naomi, who runs a small design studio across town and has zero patience for the Lin family's theatrics.
They're doing the dinner thing again, aren't they? Naomi says over coffee, not really a question. Vivian called him a charity case in front of caterers, Sophia says. Naomi shakes her head. And you're still married to him because... Sophia pauses, longer than she means to. Because he doesn't flinch. Ever. My whole family's tried everything, and he just eats his dinner, like none of it lands. Naomi raises an eyebrow.
"That's either the calmest man alive or the most dangerous one." Sophia laughs it off. She has no idea how right Naomi is.
To keep his cover airtight, Ethan actually shows up to a job 3 days a week, the loading dock of a logistics company. What nobody there knows is that Ethan owns it. 200 employees, and not one of them realizes their slowest new hire signs off on the building's mortgage.
His supervisor, Dale, has no idea either. "You ever think about applying somewhere better, Cross?" Dale asks, watching Ethan stack pallets. "Guy your age, married into money, still hauling boxes? Rough." "It's honest work," Ethan says. Dale laughs. "Sure, whatever helps you sleep." The only person who knows the truth is Marissa, Ethan's assistant, a woman who's worked for his family since before he was born.
She reaches him through a burner phone with a number that changes every few weeks. "Sir," she texts one night, "the board needs your signature on the Meridian refinancing by Friday. Also, respectfully, how long are you planning to let these people treat you like garbage?" Ethan types back one word. "Soon." He doesn't mean it yet. Not really. 3 months in, the Meridian Grand incident happens, and this is the one that starts cracking everything open.
Oh my God, Sophia, I didn't know they let just anyone in here now. Camille's eyes flick to Ethan's worn jacket, then back to Sophia, smile sharp as glass. This must be him? This is my husband, Sophia says, chin up.
Cute. This floor's card only, sweetie. Black card only, actually. Sophia's jaw tightens. She's not going to cry. She's going to leave with whatever dignity she has left. Ethan steps forward instead. Actually, he says, I own the building. Silence. Sorry. Ethan nods to the security guard down the corridor, Marcus, who's worked for him 6 years and somehow keeps a straight face.
"Marcus, tell her whose name is on the deed." Marcus straightens. "Meridian Grand Holdings. Mr. Cross has owned the property since the 2021 renovation." Camille's shopping bags suddenly look very heavy in her hands. Ethan turns to Sophia. "Buy whatever you want. Whole floor is yours today." Sophia stares at him like she's seeing a stranger. She kind of is. Ethan brushes it off, says it's a favor from a friend.
She doesn't fully believe him. She lets it go anyway. Camille doesn't let it go, though. She goes home and tells her husband, Julian, everything. The mall, the security guard, the deed. Julian runs a mid-sized property investment firm and smells opportunity instead of embarrassment. If this Ethan Cross actually has pull with Meridian Grand Holdings, Julian tells Camille that night, I want in.
Get me an introduction. Camille corners Sophia at a spa the following week, suddenly warm, suddenly interested in getting to know Ethan better. Sophia sees through it in about 4 seconds. He's not taking meetings, Sophia says flatly. He works loading docks, remember? Card-only floor and all that. Camille's smile tightens. Right, of course. Sophia relays the whole conversation to Ethan that night, half laughing. Ethan just shakes his head.
People only get curious about you once they think you're useful to them. He doesn't take the meeting. Julian spends the next several weeks trying every back channel he can find and finds nothing, because there's nothing to find under the name Ethan Cross, not unless you already know exactly where to look. That night, Sophia sits with Ethan on the cottage steps.
You could have let them keep thinking whatever they wanted, she says. Why help me? Because you're the only one who defended a nobody, Ethan says, before you had any reason to. Sophia laughs, quiet and disbelieving. You're full of surprises for a guy who stacks boxes for a living. To them, I'm still exactly that. That's the point. She doesn't push. She just leans her head on his shoulder. And for the first time, this doesn't feel like a contract anymore.
It feels like something real is growing, where nobody else can see it. Word about the mall spreads quietly. Diane starts watching Ethan differently. Not warmly, suspiciously. Like she's miscounted something and hasn't figured out where the error is. So she tests him the way she tests everyone, with money. The company's short this quarter, Diane announces at dinner, loud enough for the staff to hear, which means it's meant for Ethan.
Perhaps certain family members should contribute more than they currently do. Prove you're broke or prove you're hiding something. Ethan says nothing. He lets her sit in the tension she just created. Sophia's father, Richard, a tired man who gave up controlling this household years ago, clears his throat. Ethan, I don't suppose you have connections in finance. A few, Ethan says. Vivian scoffs into it. A few, right.
Probably knows a guy who knows a guy at a payday loan office. Ethan lets her have that one too. A week later, Vivian's fiancé, Preston, invites the family to Celine, the kind of restaurant that doesn't print prices, because if you have to ask, you don't belong there. Preston orders the most expensive bottle on the list, then turns to Ethan with a practiced smile. Ethan, right? Sophia's husband. He says the word like it tastes strange. I'll get this one. Wouldn't want you choking on the bill. The table laughs. Sophia doesn't. Ethan glances at the wine list for exactly 1 second, then sets it down. Actually, I have a standing account here. The owner comps me the private room upstairs. We could move up if you'd rather not be seen with us down here. Preston's smile falters. You
Have an account. At Celine. I own 40% of the parent restaurant group, Ethan says. Celine's one of 9. Want the sommelier to bring up the actual good bottles, or are we sticking with the one you picked to impress people? The silence that follows has weight to it. Preston laughs it off badly and changes the subject fast. Sophia catches Ethan's eye across the table, somewhere between confusion and something warmer.
Ethan still doesn't explain. He just orders the good bottle himself and lets the night move on. On the drive home, Preston can't let it go. He corners Ethan by the valet stand while the others say their goodbyes. Whatever game you're playing, Preston mutters, I'll find out. People like you don't just have accounts at places like that. Ethan hands his valet ticket to the attendant without looking at Preston. You're welcome to look. Won't find much. That's usually the point. He doesn't like that answer. He starts asking around the next week, quietly, carefully, the way people do when they think they're being discreet. He gets nowhere. Every trail Ethan's ever left behind runs through a dozen shell entities named after Walter Cross's old delivery routes. Preston finds a warehouse worker named Ethan Cross with a normal credit score and nothing else.
He stops looking, mostly convinced it was a bluff. He's wrong. He just doesn't know it yet. Diane isn't done testing Ethan either. A week after Celine, she throws a family loyalty dinner, her words, and seats an unfamiliar guest directly across from Sophia, Marcus Whitfield's son, Grant, heir to a hospitality fortune twice the size of the Lynn's own.
Grant's been dying to meet you properly.
Diane says to Sophia, sickly sweet. You two have so much in common. Grant, to his credit, looks almost as uncomfortable as Ethan feels, clearly aware he's being used as a prop in someone else's power play. He tries small talk about business school. Sophia answers politely and pointedly redirects every question back toward Ethan, who sits there quietly enduring an entire dinner built to remind him he could be replaced in an instant by someone with a real bank account.
Ethan doesn't say much, does he? Grant says at one point, not unkindly. He says exactly enough, Sophia says, and reaches for Ethan's hand under the table without hesitation, in front of her mother, in front of a man worth 9 figures. Diane's smile goes brittle. The dinner ends early. Grant leaves without complaint. He seems, if anything, relieved to be released from whatever his father volunteered him for.
Ethan walks Sophia back to the cottage in silence, and it's the kind of silence that says more than the whole dinner did. 2 weeks later, Lynn Freight Holdings, Richard's company, gets hit with a hostile takeover bid from an untraceable shell corporation. Stock drops 11% in one afternoon. Ethan already knows who's behind it. The Zhao Group has circled Lynn Freight for years, waiting for weakness.
They finally found it. An aging patriarch, a family more interested in status than strategy, and a company bleeding talent because nobody at the top can make a decision with 3 arguments first. Ethan blocked 2 previous Zhao Group attempts without anyone knowing. This time, he lets it get further. He wants to see how far this family falls before they notice the ground shifting. And he wants to see how Sophia handles real pressure, not manufactured cruelty. She surprises him, while Diane panics and Vivian disappears to clear her head at a spa. Sophia sits in the study until 3 in the morning, going through contracts her father ignored for a decade, looking for anything that could slow the bleeding. Ethan finds her asleep at the desk at 4 a.m., a red pen still in her hand, half a legal document marked up in the margins. That's the moment Ethan decides.
Enough watching.
Before Ethan makes his calls, he does one more thing. He meets the man behind the bid face to face. Marcus Zhao, head of the Zhao Group, agrees to a quiet lunch, thinking he's meeting a nobody Lin family member curious about a misunderstanding. He gets the surprise of his career instead. "You've circled Lin Freight for 6 years, Ethan says, sliding into the booth across from him.
Twice, someone blocked you without leaving a name. That was me. Zhao sets down his coffee slowly. You're the son-in-law, the warehouse one. I'm the majority silent partner in the bank that's about to pull your financing, Ethan says. You have 2 options. Withdraw the bid quietly today, or I make sure every lender in this city knows exactly how you structured the shell corporation you used to hide your name from the filing.
Your call. Zhao studies him for a long moment, calculating, the way men who've built empires always do when they realize they've badly misjudged the room. Why do you even care about this family? Word is they treat you like garbage. They do, Ethan says. Doesn't mean I'll let a predator pick them apart while I'm standing right here. Zhao withdraws the bid within the hour. He never tells anyone why. Neither does Ethan.
The next morning, Ethan makes 3 more calls before breakfast, just to be sure nothing else is moving underneath the surface. By noon, Zhao Group's official bid mysteriously loses its primary financing partner, a bank Ethan happens to sit on the board of, under a name none of them would recognize. By evening, 2 silent backers pull out, spooked by due diligence irregularities Ethan arranged to surface himself. Lin Freight's stock recovers by closing bell. Richard walks around the house that night like a man who's been handed a miracle he doesn't understand. Our legal team says the bid just fell apart. No explanation. Lucky, Ethan says, not looking up from his coffee. Vivian, predictably, makes it about him anyway. Must be nice sitting around doing nothing while grown-ups solve real problems. Ethan smiles into his coffee. If only she knew whose problems just got solved. 3 weeks after that, Richard collapses in his office. A heart episode, sudden and terrifying. The hospital quotes a specialist procedure that would drain what little cash the family has left, right after the takeover scare already gutted their reserves.
Vivian screams at the front desk about insurance caps. Diane, for once, looks genuinely frightened instead of cruel.
Ethan steps into the hallway and makes one call. Move him to the cardiac wing, he tells the hospital's chief administrator, a man who once needed a very large, very quiet loan from one of Ethan's holding companies. Whatever it costs, bill it to Meridian Health Partners. Keep my name off everything. 20 minutes later, a specialist team appears that happened to have an opening. Nobody questions how convenient the timing is.
Sophia sits beside Ethan in the waiting room, exhausted, scared, unaware that the man holding her hand just rearranged an entire hospital's priorities to save her father. "Thank you for being here," she whispers. "I know this isn't really your family." "It is now," Ethan says. The hospital scare changes something in Sophia, too. She starts volunteering 2 afternoons a week at a community shelter downtown, quietly, without telling her family. The first thing she's ever done that has nothing to do with being a Lynn.
Ethan finds out by accident, tailing her car once out of pure curiosity, and never mentions it. He does, however, quietly triple the shelter's operating budget through an anonymous donor account the following month. The shelter director tells Sophia a mystery benefactor stepped in. Sophia has a guess who it is. She doesn't ask. She just starts leaving a second cup of coffee on Ethan's desk every morning. No explanation needed. Richard recovers. The family never learns how close they came to losing everything, the money and him, in the same month. Ethan prefers it that way. Some debts are better paid in silence. But Diane, still suspicious, decides it's time to intervene differently. "Sophia," she announces one evening, "Marcus Whitfield's son has expressed interest, real interest, the kind that comes with a prenup that actually protects this family's future." She doesn't look at Ethan when she says it.
She doesn't need to. Sophia's expression goes cold. "I'm already married." "To a man who stacks boxes," Diane snaps. "Marriages like yours get quietly dissolved all the time, dear. Nobody would blink." Ethan sits there, silent, watching Sophia decide who she is in real time. "I'd blink," Sophia says. "I'd blink very loudly in front of every person you care about impressing." Ethan stays. This conversation is over. Diane storms off. Ethan reaches over and takes Sophia's hand under the table. The same gesture she gave him on their first humiliating dinner, returned in full. "You didn't have to do that," Ethan says quietly. "I wanted to," Sophia says. "Whatever you're not telling me, I trust the man sitting next to me more than anyone in that dining room." Ethan almost tells her everything right there. Almost. But the closeness doesn't come without doubt. A few nights later, Sophia finds a folder on Ethan's desk in the cottage office, accidentally left open, full of documents with letterheads she doesn't recognize. Meridian Health Partners, Cross Family Trust. Names that don't match the warehouse ID badge sitting next to his keys. She doesn't snoop further. She waits for him to come home.
"What is this?" she asks, holding up one folder, voice tight. "Ethan, what is actually going on with you?" Ethan freezes for half a second. The first time in 6 months she's seen him not have an immediate answer. Tension. "I can't tell you everything yet," he says carefully. "Not because I don't trust you, because the second I do, everything about how people treat you changes."
"I wanted you to have one relationship in your life that wasn't about money, even if that meant lying by omission." Sophia's jaw tightens. "That's still lying, Ethan." "I know," he says, "and I know that's not fair to you. I'm asking for a little more time, not forever. Soon." She doesn't answer right away. She sets the folder down, walks to the window, arms crossed, quiet for a long moment.
"I'm not scared of whatever you're hiding," she finally says. "I'm scared of finding out I built my whole idea of you on a lie." "You didn't," Ethan says. "Everything I've shown you, the cottage, the steps, the way I listen when you talk about your father's contracts at 3 in the morning, that's the realest thing I've ever let anyone see. The money's just The part I haven't shown you yet. Sophia studies him for a long time. Then she nods, once, and doesn't bring it up again. But something shifts between them that night. Not distance, exactly. Anticipation. She knows something's coming. She just doesn't know when. That weekend, Naomi dragged Sophia to a charity car showcase downtown. Expensive vintage models, a fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. Exactly the kind of event Diane loves being photographed at.
Vivian's there too, trailing Preston, pointing at a hand-built roadster like she already owns it. "Daddy's getting me one of these for the engagement," Vivian announces to nobody in particular. "Limited production, 18 made worldwide." The showroom host clears his throat nervously. "Actually, ma'am, all 18 units were reserved months ago. There's a wait list of 19, Ethan says, walking up behind Sophia, hands in his pockets. "There's 19 now."
I had the manufacturer build an extra unit last year. Off list. Sophia, pick a color. Vivian's mouth opens and nothing comes out. The showroom host nearly trips over himself. "Mr. Cross, of course, right this way." Vivian stares at Ethan like she's trying to solve a math problem that keeps changing. "You had them build an extra one? That's not how wait lists work." "It is when you're the reason the factory has a wait list," Ethan says, and walks off with Sophia before Vivian can find a response.
Sophia waits until they're out of earshot before she starts laughing, really laughing, the kind she hasn't done around her family in months. "You are unbelievable." "I try," Ethan says. The car showroom humiliation stings Vivian more than she lets on, and she doesn't take it well. A few days later, she pays a visit to Ethan's warehouse, the actual logistics building, pretending to drop off paperwork for Richard, but really just fishing for something, anything she can use.
She finds Dale instead and pumps him for information with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. "So Ethan's been here, 2 years? He ever mentioned any family, money, anything unusual?" Dale shrugs. "Guy shows up on time, does his job, doesn't talk much. Why, he in trouble?" "No," Vivian says, frustrated. Never mind." She leaves empty-handed, more rattled than when she arrived, because the ordinary version of Ethan that everyone at the warehouse describes doesn't match the man who casually built an extra luxury car out of nowhere. Something isn't adding up, and it's eating at her. That night, she corners Sophia in the kitchen. What is he actually hiding? And don't tell me it's nothing, because nothing doesn't build extra sports cars. "Maybe," Sophia says, calm in a way that surprises even her, "you should try treating people well without needing a reason first. You might learn something eventually." Vivian doesn't have an answer for that either.
She storms off, more determined than ever to expose whatever this is at the one event guaranteed to have the whole city watching, her own engagement party. Vivian's engagement party comes next, a rooftop event built less to celebrate her and Preston and more to remind the city that the Lynn family is still exactly as powerful as ever, despite the rumors.
Vivian unveils her engagement ring in front of everyone, timed for maximum photographers. "Preston's family spared no expense," she says, loud enough for 3 tables to hear. "Unlike some marriages around here." Her eyes cut straight to Ethan. Ethan lets it go. Not the night for that fight. Then the final auction item is announced. A rare pair of imperial celadon vases, donated that morning by an anonymous benefactor. No reserve price. The bidding starts low, polite, restrained. Vivian lets it climb, savoring the attention, then jumps in hard, loud enough for the whole rooftop to turn. 14 million, Vivian announces, chin lifted, eyes locked on Ethan. Let's see if anyone here actually has money, or just opinions. The crowd buzzes. Sophia's face goes pale, not for herself, but because she knows Vivian is spending money the family doesn't currently have, all to win a fight nobody but Vivian is fighting. Ethan stands up. Every head turns. 16 million, he says, calm, flat, the way he always talks when he's already won something before it starts. Vivian laughs. You. With what money?
Everyone here knows exactly what you are, Ethan. A charity case my sister married out of pity. 17, Ethan says. She goes to 18, voice sharper, less certain. The rooftop goes completely silent. The kind of silence that only happens right before everyone realizes they're about to witness something they'll talk about for years. Ethan looks at her, and for the first time in 6 months, lets the mask slip.
Vivian, I donated those vases this morning, anonymously. I bought them for $11 million from a private seller 2 days ago because I wanted to see exactly how far you'd go to embarrass a family that's never once embarrassed you. Diane's wine glass slips from her fingers, shattering against the marble. The same sound that opens this story, except this time, it's hers.
Vivian's face drains of color. That's not possible. You don't have that kind of... 20 million, Ethan says, cutting her off. And this time, nobody doubts it's real. Final bid. And Vivian, the vases are Sophia's. They were always going to be Sophia's. Vivian doesn't back down easily. 6 months of pride doesn't dissolve in one sentence. This is a trick, she says, voice cracking. Some kind of publicity stunt.
People don't just hide that kind of money. People hide exactly that kind of money, Ethan says, when they want to know if anyone will treat them decently without it. You didn't. Sophia did. That's the whole answer to every question you're about to ask me. Preston puts a hand on Vivian's arm, quiet, trying to pull her back from the edge of a fight she's already lost in front of 300 witnesses.
She shakes him off once, then lets him guide her back into her seat, face still pale, still searching the crowd for someone, anyone, who looks as confused as she feels. Nobody does. They're all just watching. The auctioneer, hands trembling, calls it. The crowd erupts, not in scandal, but in the specific electric hush of old money realizing new money just quietly outclassed them in their own arena.
Sophia grabs Ethan's arm. Ethan, what is happening right now? I own the Meridian Grand, Ethan says quietly, just for her. I own 6 other properties this family's walked past 100 times without knowing. I run a firm that could buy your father's company at lunch and still have money left for dinner. I married you because you were the only person in that house who never once asked what I could give you. Sophia's eyes fill.
She doesn't let them fall. Not in front of this crowd. Not yet. You let them humiliate you for 6 months, she whispers. I let them show me who they really were, Ethan says. And I let you show me who you really are. Preston tries to salvage the night with a rushed toast, but nobody's listening anymore. Every phone on that rooftop is already recording, already sending clips of the moment Vivian Lynn's own future brother-in-law casually outbid an entire family's fortune to defend the sister they spent 6 months mocking.
By morning, it's everywhere. Ethan Cross isn't the nobody who married into money anymore. He's the man half the boardrooms in the city have quietly answered to for years, hidden behind holding companies nobody bothered to trace back far enough. Dale calls in a panic, apologizing for every joke he ever made about Ethan's career prospects. Ethan tells him not to worry, and quietly authorizes his overdue promotion that same afternoon, this time under his real name. Preston, alone in his apartment, finally understands why his background check found nothing. He wasn't looking for a warehouse worker's secret. He was looking for a shipping empire's heir hiding in plain sight. And he had been standing next to him at dinner, mocking him about a wine bill. Julian calls Camille from his office, staring at his laptop, watching the same clip everyone else in the city is watching.
The guy from the mall, he says slowly. The card-only floor. That was him. That was actually him. Camille goes quiet on the other end of the line for the first time in the entire story. By the next afternoon, reporters have pieced together enough to run a business section headline. The reclusive Cross family heir, long rumored to control a chunk of the city's shipping and retail infrastructure, has been publicly identified for the first time in over a decade at his own sister-in-law's engagement party of all places.
Ethan's name trends for 2 days. He ignores every interview request Marissa forwards him.
The attention doesn't stop at reporters. Old business rivals who wrote Ethan off as a rumor start recalculating fast. A competing logistics firm that quietly undercut Cross Holdings contracts for years suddenly finds every one of those contracts under review. A landlord who tried to squeeze better terms out of what he thought was an anonymous shell company gets a very polite, very final call from Ethan's legal team. None of it is vindictive. It's just Ethan finally operating in daylight instead of through blind trusts and burner phones. And the city adjusts to that reality fast, the way it always adjusts to real power once it stops hiding. Grant Whitfield, of all people, sends a short, gracious text. Didn't see that coming. Glad it worked out. Buy you a drink sometime. No agenda. Ethan actually takes him up on it a month later. Turns out, Grant never wanted the arranged dinner setup any more than Ethan did. Diane tries to apologize at breakfast. Ethan lets her. He doesn't need it, but Sophia does, and she deserves to hear it. Vivian avoids the house for 2 weeks. When she comes back, she doesn't say one insulting word to Ethan again. Not because she suddenly respects him, because she's finally learned what everyone eventually learns about people who stay quiet through disrespect.
The quiet ones usually aren't weak. They're just waiting. Preston, to his credit, apologizes properly, man to man, no audience. Ethan respects that more than anything else Preston's done in 6 months. For what it's worth, Preston adds, Vivian's not a bad person under all of it. Her mother built her to compete for approval her whole life. Doesn't excuse it, just context. Ethan nods. I know something about difficult family expectations, too. Doesn't mean people get a free pass. But I hear you. The two of them end up talking longer than either expects, about business mostly, and eventually about the pressure of marrying into a family with its own agenda. It's the first real conversation they've had that isn't a competition. Naomi, when Sophia finally calls her with the full story, just laughs for a full minute straight. Danger, man.
I told you.
Helping people who were awful to you. Why? Not for them, Ethan says. For you. Every time I fix something for your family, it's one less thing you have to carry. Sophia is quiet for a long moment. I fell in love with you before I knew any of this, she finally says. The version of you that carried groceries and slept in a freezing cottage without complaining once.
I need you to know that part was real, no matter what version of you the world sees now. I know, Ethan says. That's the only version of me that ever mattered. Not everyone adjusts gracefully. Diane throws herself into damage control, suddenly hosting brunches, suddenly telling anyone who listened that she always knew Ethan was special, that she saw something in him from the start. Sophia lets her mother have the story she needs to tell herself. It costs nothing, and it keeps the peace. Vivian takes longer. One afternoon, she finds Ethan alone in the garden, and for once doesn't lead with an insult. Why didn't you just tell us, she asks, in the beginning? You could have shut us all up in week 1. Ethan considers the question honestly. Because then I'd never know if you were capable of being decent without a reason to be.
Turns out, most of you needed the reason. Sophia didn't. Vivian doesn't have a comeback for that. She just nods, quiet, and walks away. And it's the first real moment of humility anyone in that house has shown him in 6 months.
Ethan builds her a proper office there, a place to run the foundation she starts under her own name, no ties to his. Marissa still texts Ethan on a burner phone that changes numbers every few weeks. The messages are different now. Sir, the board needs your signature by Friday. Then, almost always, a second text right after. Also, Mrs. Cross says dinner's at 7.
Don't be late this time. Ethan is never late anymore. Naomi becomes a permanent fixture at the cottage, mostly because she refuses to let Sophia forget who her real friends were before any of this. She's also, to Ethan's quiet amusement, the only person in Sophia's life who still gives him grief. You know, you could have just told everyone in month 1 and saved us all 6 months of Vivian being insufferable, Naomi says one evening over dinner.
Wouldn't have been nearly as satisfying, Ethan says. No, Naomi agrees, raising her glass towards Sophia. It really wouldn't have been.
Julian never gets his introduction. Camille never gets her apology. Some people, it turns out, don't get a redemption chapter. They just quietly fade out of the story, still telling themselves a version of events where they were never really wrong. Ethan doesn't spend a single minute thinking about either of them. A year later, Ethan and Sophia stand in that same rooftop venue, except this time it's their own event. Sophia's charity, fully funded, fully hers, with Ethan's name nowhere on the paperwork because she insisted this one had to be entirely her own. Vivian attends, politely, quietly, a different person, mostly.
Camille sends a gift basket she clearly hopes gets forgotten quickly. It does. Sophia stands at the front of the room, thanking donors, thanking her team, thanking a life she built with her own hands, despite everyone around her insisting she didn't need to lift a finger. Ethan watches from the back, the way he always prefers it. Not because he needs to hide anymore.
Because some things, the best things, were never meant to be about him at all. Sophia catches his eye across the crowd and smiles, the same way she did on a rainy night in a freezing guest cottage, carrying a space heater for a man everyone else had already written off. That smile is worth more than every company Ethan owns combined.
A few weeks after the gala, Marissa forwards Ethan a request he almost deletes without reading. A business journalist wants a sit-down interview, the real story behind the reclusive Cross Air. Ethan's first instinct is to say no, the way he said no to every request like it for a decade. Sophia reads the request over his shoulder. "Do it," she says.
"I've spent my whole life avoiding this exact thing." "I know," Sophia says, "but you spent 6 months teaching my family that hiding doesn't make you weak. Maybe it's time you stopped hiding from everyone else, too." Ethan does the interview. He doesn't talk about the money, mostly. He talks about a grandfather who built something out of a single truck, about a marriage that started as a test and became the realest thing in his life, about a woman who brought a space heater to a stranger in the rain before she had any reason to. The journalist asks at the end why he waited so long to reveal who he really was. Because everyone deserves at least one person in their life who chose them before they knew what they were worth. Ethan says, "I got lucky. I found mine early." Some things even she knows aren't hers to comment on. On their first anniversary, Ethan takes Sophia back to the cottage steps, the exact spot where she once handed a freezing stranger a space heater and asked nothing in return. He doesn't have a ring box this time. He has something else entirely. "Our actual wedding," he says, "the one on paper, happened because your family needed it to." "I never got to ask you the real question." He takes her hand. "Sophia Lynn, now that you know exactly who I am, all of it, the money, the trusts, the 6 months I spent testing a family that didn't deserve you, will you marry me? For real this time. No contract, just us." Sophia laughs, wet-eyed, swatting his shoulder. "We're already married, Ethan." "I know," he says. "I just wanted you to hear me choose you on purpose, out loud, with nothing left to hide." She says yes, obviously. They hold a small second ceremony 2 months later. No ballroom, no auction, no photographers. Just the cottage garden. Naomi as maid of honor, Marissa quietly crying in the second row, despite insisting she doesn't do emotions, and Richard walking Sophia down a gravel path he once let his wife use to sideline the man standing at the other end of it. Even Vivian cries a little, though she'll deny it for the rest of her life. And for the first time in longer than he can remember, Ethan Cross finally feels like he belongs somewhere too.